worked for the Wizards in that game was that they were kind of bouncing back and forth between Brian and Wagner, and that helped a lot. Wagner gave up some fouls, but it was necessary because I think the fouls kind of threw off Griffin's game. There was somebody else that was constantly kind of annoying him in his face and banging with him. And then when he got tired, here you bring in Thomas Bryant again. And now Thomas Bryant, is another big 7-footer reaching and, huge length. And, someone else that can out rebound or fight for rebounds against him. And not only that, Thomas Bryant is also running up and down the floor. So they made Andre Drummond work a lot that game, and they struggled a little bit to get their offensive flow going. So while we were containing Drummond, the Wizards did their thing, and we had ourselves a decent game. Now, I will say this, there was a switch in the lineup. Because Brooks had decided at this point, you know what, IT has been playing really good off the bench. By IT, I mean Isaiah Thomas, if you don't know. Isaiah Thomas has been playing really good off the bench, so he slides him into the starting lineup, and he did not have the best game. I think he finished something with like 9 or 10 points in the game against the Pistons, so it wasn't the best game. And personally, I didn't really like that because I felt like Ish came from the Pistons last year, and I think you always want to play a player against his ex-team. It's a little extra motivation because you want to show out against them. Regardless, Wizards come out with the victory. Little bounce back win from the horrible game that we had against the Wolves, the Timberwolves, and all good, right? Because winning cures everything. So we end that losing streak, we bounce back, we get a nice little victory against the Pistons, and here we go on to last night's game against the Indiana Pacers. We traveled to Indiana, and this is a team that's also without Victor Oladipo. He's still hurt. No Miles Turner. Sabonis, I believe, was like a game-time decision, so I wasn't really sure if he was going to play or not. He did end up playing, and the Pacers played like they wanted it more. And I don't even want to say they're the more experienced team because, yeah, they got a couple, they got players with some experience and, that know how to play and this and that or whatever, but they just... First of all, everybody on the Pacers squad finished in double figures. Their starting 5 finished in double figures. Malcolm Brogdon finished in double figures in points and assists. Sabonis was having himself a game, finished in double figures in points and rebounds. Their rookie Goga contributed off the bench. Doug McDermott went off the bench for 19 points. He was just splashing from threes. And this is something that I kind of want to touch on. But I'm not going to get into it too heavy right now because I'm just trying to recap what's been going on these past 7 games. So we end up losing in Indiana, right? And defensive woes, that's all it is. Defensive woes. I think we depend on our offense too much. I think, because the NBA has naturally become more of a scoring league than a defensive league. Those times are kind of behind us. It seems like everybody's putting up over 100 points nowadays. That I think the Wizards just feel like they can just continue to score and maybe rely on Beal and rely on some of their shooters that they have. C.J. Miles made his return last night against the Pacers. He had himself a decent night. Bertans is a great shooter. So I think they kind of rely on their shooters a little too heavily, and they don't get enough stops on the defensive end. We try to cut the lead. We try to get ourselves back in the game. But every time we did that, Indiana had an answer for us. Every single time. Every time we scored, they scored. Every time we scored, they scored. And we just couldn't. And every time we made a play, we hit a 3, we got an N1, they would come back and hit a 3 and make an N1. So we couldn't get enough stops when it mattered most. And that's really been kind of the story of the season so far. We're just not playing good enough defensively. And the rotations... I think Coach Brooks is still trying to figure it out. He made a switch with Isaiah Thomas starting him. We still have Bonga starting at the 3, and it's tough. It really is. It's tough. It's tough right now. The defensive woes have been carrying on from last season. Obviously, this is a new team, but the defensive problems have not changed. They have not changed. Anyways. Let's talk about some bright spots to start the season before we get into, dissecting how we're playing. Let's get into some bright spots. Roy Hachimura, man, my man is hooping. You gotta like Roy. I'm serious. You gotta like Roy. If you're kind of down and sad about the Wizards, let Roy pick your spirits up because he's been hooping. For a rookie, he just kind of like I was saying in the season preview, he seems so cool, calm, and composed when he's on the court. I believe he only had one bad game, and that was against the Timberwolves, I want to say, where he just didn't have a good night. I believe he only scored like 4 points. But it doesn't matter. He's doing really great. And if you look at how he's playing and look at his numbers amongst other rookies in the league, he's doing great. And he just seems to have like a really good understanding of the game. He's adjusted to the NBA speed. And you just see him getting better as the season progresses. Even from game one to this game now, to last night's game. Like game one and game two, you weren't really seeing him shoot threes, and if he did, he wasn't making them. And then as the season keeps going, game after game, now you see him shoot with a little bit more confidence. It seems like that release is a little bit quicker, and he just, man, I can't tell you like how happy I am that we drafted him. Like, I'm serious. I mean, even me when we first drafted him, I was like, oh man. I mean, I've seen him play a couple games, but I'm really unsure about how I feel about him. And after seeing him play these first couple games in the season, he just looks like he's going to develop into the player that we need him to develop to. He seems, what's the word that I'm looking for? He just seems like he's going to reach his potential, basically. He seems like he's going to reach his potential. Now, I've been reading and I've been listening to other podcasts, and it just seems like there is obviously a lot of attention on him, right? The Japanese media is all over him whenever he enters any building. And so I just hope that doesn't become a distraction or it doesn't bother him too much. But in terms of pure basketball, he's hooping and doing his thing. There aren't too many other rookies who are outplaying him, to be honest. Ja Morant is one of them, who's just averaging probably like 8 more points than he is. But Ja Morant also, he's like their guy, so they want him to score a lot, right? RJ Barrett is another one that's averaging a little bit more than him. And PJ Washington is not averaging, or he is averaging more than him, but he's also getting a lot more playing time than Roy is. Right? Roy's averaging about 27 minutes per game. He's shooting 44% from field goal and averaging 12 points a game. So I'm cool with it. Right now he's only averaging 6 rebounds a game, but he at any given night he's easily a walking double-double. No problem. So you gotta love that if you're the Wizards. You gotta love that. And him being in the starting lineup, I think, is no question. Like, no hesitation. He's got to start. He's got to play. He's got to get the minutes. So Roy has definitely been a bright spot for the Wizards this season. And the only other thing that I'm still with Brooks, so I'm like, man, you got to give these young guys some playing time. I would like to see Admiral Schofield get a little bit more shine. He had a game where he was like 5 for 5 from 3 or 5 for 5 for the night. Like, he didn't miss any of his shots. And you got to ride that momentum. Let the young guys come out here and play. I'm not saying they got to be starters, and I'm not saying they got to play 30-plus minutes. But if he's having a good night, and if they can shoot, like, ride the wave. You know what I mean? Ride the wave. Let these young guys play. Like, stop holding these young guys hostages. There's a reason why, or hostage. There's a reason why we drafted these guys, and there's a reason why we openly said that this is the development year. So if it is, then let these young guys play. Start. It just seems like sometimes it feels like they say one thing, but then they go against their word. And what I mean by that is, I feel like come media day, right? Everybody was talking about how we have this blueprint for this upcoming season and how we understand that it's a development year and this and that. But if you move away from that blueprint and you start doing things just so you can win games, and you're not sticking to what you first initially wanted to do, then you're throwing off the fan base, you're throwing off the players, and it just doesn't make any sense. Now I think, and I've kind of spoken to a couple people about this, I think Coach Brooks feels the pressure. I think he feels the pressure that he knows that he's got to do something this year. And I think he believes that the only way to save himself from getting fired is to win games, which I don't think is necessarily the truth. You don't have to necessarily win games to save yourself a job. If you see your core of young guys developing, like how Roy's playing, if we can see the development of Roy and Admiral as well, and even in Thomas Bryant, because he's also young too, and in Wagner is too, as long as you see that development happening, then you're okay with losing games. Obviously you want to win games, right? Obviously. But at the same time, Like if we played like how we played against San Antonio every single night, where we're losing by just a point, 2 points, and it's coming down to the wire, you already see the progress. But when you lose the way that we did against the Timberwolves, where we weren't even in the game, I mean, we weren't even in the gym, then it's kind of like, oh man, like are they really progressing? Or maybe was that just kind of like a one game type of thing? And so I think that's where the question lies. It's like, where is Coach Book's head really at? You know, is his main focus really to develop our guys, or is he nervous and feeling the fire that's being lit underneath him, that he's probably going to get fired soon enough if he doesn't start developing these guys the right way? Don't worry so much about winning. The wins are going to come naturally as long as you coach and train these guys the right way. But I don't know. I don't know. You know, right now we're 2-5. Some games we looked good, and some games we looked horrible. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. Another bright spot this season has been Beal is quietly averaging 27 points a game, shooting 40% from the field goal. He's actually shooting really bad from three. He's shooting 28% from 3-point right now, as of right now, right after our first 7 games, which is the lowest in his career. And you know, even though he's averaging 27 points a game, I still feel like he's just not playing that well. He's not playing at an all NBA level. He's playing like an all-star, I would say, but it just feels like his points aren't coming when the team needs them, you know? And I hate to call them garbage time points, because it's not even necessarily garbage time. It's really not. But it just feels like the points that he makes aren't when we need them the most. He had one game where he shot 1 for 11. I believe that was against Dallas. And last night he was 1 for 12 from 3-point. So yeah, he's shooting bad from beyond the arc. And I think right now he needs to focus on driving and getting to the basket, because that's what's working for him. He's shooting 80% from the free throw line, and you know, there's a few times where he might fumble the ball, might lose the ball when he's driving. But hey, you got to stay aggressive. You know, you got to stay aggressive. I think that's also going to open up the floor for everybody else on the floor to shoot, right? As long as he stays aggressive and he keeps attacking the paint. I mean, look at Harden. Harden averages like 30 points a game, and half of those points come from the free throw line. Straight up. This guy averages like 15 shots a game from the free throw line. It's crazy. So I think if he wants to get those calls, as he deserves to, then he has to stay aggressive. You know, put your head down and keep attacking the rim. Keep attacking the rim. And on top of that, you know, you keep attacking the rim, it's going to open up other areas of your game. And maybe you have a little bit more space to shoot that 3-ball now. Now, like I said, he's been struggling from 3, because even those that he missed, some of them were kind of wide open shots, and he just hasn't been able to knock them down. It is early in the season. Hopefully he can start to get into a groove. We need him to get into mid-season form a little bit quicker, to be honest. But I think the best thing for him right now is to keep his head down and to just keep attacking the rim straight up. Keep attacking the rim. Try to get to the free throw line, and from there you can create for your teammates and do other things and kind of open up the offense a little bit. Now Isaiah Thomas entered the starting lineup. I wasn't too happy about that. I honestly prefer he stays on the bench, because I think Ish does a little bit of a better job in terms of creating for the starting 5. And I think we need Isaiah Thomas to come off the bench and to just shoot. I think Isaiah Thomas does a really good job playing against other teams' secondary lineups. And I think that's why he has shown success. That's where he's been his best. Well, for us at least, that's where he's been his best. Since he's came off the bench, he's averaged like, I think, 15 points a game or something like that. I think there was only one game where he was just under 15 points. But it's because when he comes off the bench, he only has one job, and that's to shoot and score, right? But the moment that you put him into the starting lineup, now you're asking him to create for Thomas. You're asking him to create for Beal. You're asking him to find shots for Roy. You know, you're asking him to do a lot more that I don't think we necessarily need him to do. Ish is super fast. Ish is quick with the ball. So Ish can push the tempo and move the ball up and down the floor really fast. And with that, he can get his own buckets on fast break points, or he can kick out and create like a starting point guard has to do for his teammates. And I don't think that's necessarily Isaiah Thomas's strongest trait. You know, he's a good shooter. He's a scorer. He's a bucket getter. And that's what we need him to be, because we don't have the best offensive power coming off the bench. We got Bertans, and we just got CJ Miles back, and that's going to help. But now you think about